Do you believe that the King is coming? Do you believe that it is soon? Do you think that it could be sooner than you think? When I had the choice to make as to what to speak, it was a difficult one today because I've wanted to tell this, and yet I hesitated because some of it I'm not totally going to set everything forth to you today that I actually believe, because time will tell if what I believe is the truth. And I can't set things as absolute truth unless I know for sure. But it looks very certain to me. Pearl says, preach a simpler sermon. And I pondered that until I went to bed last night. I thought, wow, I could. There are many things that I could do here this morning, even right now, and make things very simple. But because of the urgency of the time, I felt impressed. I've got to do this. Now, what I'm going to present today, if I presented it in its fullness, it would take me 3 hours. I'll do it in about 30 minutes. So you're just going to get a snippet. I'm not putting in all the quotes that I could have found on this topic, but enough so that you know the point that's being made today. Have you heard many sermons on this topic? I don't think too many of you have. Some of you possibly. And, there's a lot of varying concepts in regard to this topic. And the words that are used in the topic aren't really appealing, are they? What does abomination mean to you? That's a pretty severe word, isn't it? And of desolation, what could that mean? And then on the other hand, I thought, now who's going to be here tomorrow when I speak? Because some are not that, we haven't gone very deep in the study of things. And one is my good friend Georgia. You're here today. I'm thankful you're here, Georgia. I'll try to patch things up, okay? We're just starting studies. And Pearl and I are delighted to study with her. She's a charming young lady. So I thought, this is a little heavy. We've just started with Daniel. We've got through the image. We've done a few things. But this topic, this soon, a little bit too quick. We'll fix it. I'm glad you're here today. Anyway, I'm going ahead with it. And at this time, I would like to again ask the Lord that He would help me in this message. Father in heaven, you have talked to me much in the last couple of weeks as I've pondered this topic, and really over a couple of years. You know that I don't want to say anything that would not be truth. And I don't plan to today. All that I plan to do is present the things that I know are truth. But there are other things that I would want this congregation to do further study on, and I will let them know this morning because I think things are becoming very obvious. Yes, Lord, you are coming, and that should be good news. But Father, there's some time between here and then that's going to be difficult. Please be with me today as I bring this topic, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, well, we hope that everything will work as far as the slides, because the slides, I just feel like, make a much deeper impression than if you just hear it. And this is a slide right here of what our church believed in 1931. I kind of believe they were on target. If you start up here with the planet and then it comes down to the flood, and we've been through the Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome stages, right? We've talked about those stages. And then it comes to when it first of all was Rome, what was it? It was pagan Rome. And then it moved to the ecclesiastical Rome, or the Church of Rome. And then we had a deadly wound, right? And the Bible says that then this thing just kind of disappeared. But then the deadly wound was healed. And because of the healing, now it's a more complex thing at this stage than it was over there. Because it's not only Rome, but it's the adherence to Rome's principles that we have today. And you see this little fellow right here? That's the United States of America. That's the two-horned beast. Scrawny little guy to start with, right? But that power will multiply into the final power on this planet of mankind. And it will combine with the Roman power. We know all of that. And then you see the millennium, and then this power comes up at the second coming, and then we have at the third coming, and then we have the destruction of it in total. So as I looked at this picture, as I found it, I thought, yeah, I still believe that. Now I want to say this morning, just for the sake of continuity and for the sake of me not getting distracted, if you disagree with me, I don't want this to be a conversation today, okay? You can talk to me afterward, because I want to go through what has been presented to me, which I believe is from heaven. And because some of these things are not being presented today. And so please allow me that I can just go through this slide by slide. And I'm not saying that everything I put up here is perfect, but it's according to what I've read and the text that I will put up here. I want to give the setting. We're talking about Matthew 24. That is probably the most profound prophecy that is fairly easy to understand in the Scripture. And you know who gave it, right? Came from the words of Jesus. And just to give just a brief background, you see the city there. Jesus is sitting with the disciples on Mount of Olives. This is the night before he has his trial, before Gethsemane, before going before Pilate and Herod. The night before that, he's sitting on this mountain and telling the disciples. To give a little more background, he had just that day been in the temple, and he was in major controversy with the priests, you can remember. And then as he came out of the temple, he was, some men were there that wanted to see him. They were Greeks. And as he talked with the Greeks, he got more, he was encouraged, because here were men that truly wanted to know what was the truth. And then as they left the temple, Jesus was pointing to the different things here, and he said, the time is coming, there will not be one stone left on another of this place. Very troubling to the disciples. So when they got to the mountain, they presented the question to him, when is all this going to happen? Wouldn't you want to know if you would have been them? And so that's when he goes through the whole presentation of Matthew 24. Now, I'm not planning to extensively go verse by verse through Matthew 24. Most of us here are very well acquainted with most of it. I am just going to focus on a particular part that's in that prophecy that deals with the abomination of desolation. It's in Matthew 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by, who's he talking about now? Daniel the prophet. Stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So what I'm wanting for you to see here is that there is a link with what he is saying back to Daniel. And we're going to look at the one that's in Daniel. What happened here? There we go. In Matthew 24:15 it says, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. And then Luke actually tells the same thing that's in Matthew, but he puts it this way, and I like the way that he put it. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. When they would see Jerusalem compassed about with armies. Now he's talking about them specifically, right? This is not end time. This prophecy in Matthew 24 has two explanations. One is for the time, at the time that the disciples were living. And the second explanation is for the end time of all of the earth. It's twofold in application. In their day, he said, when you see these, what would you think if you were inside that city and these guys showed up? Do you know that it says when they saw those soldiers and how many there were, and they were totally encompassing Jerusalem, of course, they were fearful. We don't have enough to confront this group. And it said that they were ready to surrender. You can look it up, you'll find that. They were ready to surrender. But something strange happened. Who do you think caused it to happen? He's in charge. And all of a sudden, this group disappears. They left the city. And when they left, what do you think that did to the Jews inside? Hey, opportunity. And they came chasing out of their city, and they attacked this group from behind. And it said they almost conquered the whole group. They were an advantage. They were attacking them from behind. But that was the signal. When Jesus said, when you see Jerusalem compassed with all the armies about, that's the time for the Christians to leave. So they were given a specific concept of when they had an opportunity to leave, and it said that they did, and they were to leave without delay. Didn't it say that? Don't even get your coat. Take off. Go. And where they went was that little town called Pella up there. Do you see it? Not too far south of the Sea of Galilee, actually, but on the east side of the Jordan River. That's where they were to go. They followed the instruction. And do you know what it says? How many of them were killed? Not one. Not one. That's the way God works. If it hadn't been for the army leaving and the Jews' army taking after them, they wouldn't have had a chance. But God caused it. He's in charge. He's got more to bring. And we have a fulfillment of this same thing in our day, and we're going to take a look at it. I want you to look at this quotation. It says, "We have no time to lose. Troublous times are before us. The world is stirred with the spirit of war." Would you say so today? It's not just Russia and Ukraine, right? Do you see that the world is stirred with the spirit of war? Soon the scenes of trouble spoken of in the prophecies will take place. The prophecy in where? The 11th of Daniel has nearly reached its complete fulfillment. That means it hasn't been fulfilled yet. Many are still thinking the 11th chapter of Daniel is past, and it's over. It says they haven't been fulfilled yet. Much of the history that has taken place in fulfillment of this prophecy will be repeated. Put that in your mind. Okay, Daniel 11 is not fulfilled yet. Let's go on. "Therefore, ye shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant." This, I'm having to cut a bunch, and so what I'm saying is not all going to perfectly flow here today, but I'm trying to get main points covered here. In Daniel 11, verse 30, this is what it says. "Therefore ye shall be grieved and return. He shall be grieved and return and have indignation." We're talking about a king at the end against the holy covenant. "So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant." What's the holy covenant? You think the Bible would say? What's this verse say? Does this make it clear? He declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even what? 10 commandments. The 10 commandments are his holy covenant. So whoever this king is going to come, and he's going to bring wrath upon the holy covenant or the people that are involved with it. He's going to come with vengeance upon them. Let's look at Romans. Romans 7, verse 12. "Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment is what? And just and good." Is there anything else that you can think of on earth? Of course, we know the temple. We know there was a holy place, and there was a most holy place, right? And what was in the most holy place? The 10 commandments. I think you should be able to see clearly, just with these short little texts, that he's coming and he's going to make war against the Ten Commandments, especially which one of the Ten Commandments? In Genesis 2, it says, on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and what does sanctified mean? Made holy. Made it holy, because that in it he had rested from his work which he created and made. There we find the commandment that is the one that this power is wanting to bring vengeance on. Let's go on here. In Exodus, we know where the Ten Commandments are found. Let's look at it. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it what? Is there any other of the commandments that say to keep it holy? The fourth commandment is the one in attack here. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But in the seventh day is the Sabbath. The seventh day. Many say it doesn't matter what day you keep. The seventh day, it says, is the Sabbath day of the Lord. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Because, that word for means because. Because in 6 days the Lord made heaven, earth, and sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and what's the word hallowed mean? Made holy. That's it. That's the holy covenant. That's what the king, this king at the end, is going to be attacking, is the holy covenant, the Ten Commandment, the fourth one in particular. Now, this quote, as the siege of Jerusalem, remember that was the abomination of desolation in the days of the Jews, correct? We just went through it. That was the abomination. That were the things they were going to look for. When the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for their flight, so it says the assumption of power on the part of which nation are we talking about here? The United States of America. This is the one. That's the one the king of this country is going to be attacking. It will then be time to leave the large cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. Does that sound similar to the first one? Very similar, very similar. All right. This is a Seventh-day Adventist chart that I plucked off the internet, and I pretty well agree with it. It does say up here the periods are not drawn to scale, so don't think, well, man, that must be a short time, that must be a bigger time. But I put down here all of the verses coming from Matthew 24 and how they fit in the final line up. You could take a picture of that if you want to and study each verse and know that this is how the final line up is going to happen, and that's according to Matthew 24. First of all, we're going to have wars and disasters. Is that happening? Pretty majorly. What is 2025 going to bring? It starts off pretty rough, doesn't it? In California, if you lived there, you would know. But it's not just there. It's all over the world. Then we're going to have, that's coming up. That's the one not looked forward to. There's going to be some persecution. It said they will kill you, you will be hated of nations, and so forth. But then in verse 14, the gospel is to be preached in all the world for a witness unto them. That is the time. What do we call that when that gospel is going? The latter rain? That's going to be the latter rain, the outpouring, right? The loud cry is going to happen. Why is that? Is it not to give people a chance that haven't really even heard yet? God is so good. And that will be so powerful, nobody's going to be mistaken about it. It's going to be like when the disciples were blessed on the day of Pentecost. There will be power with his people that they don't normally have. And how many people were flowing into that early Christian church because of the power? And those educated ones that were the brilliant ones of the country, they stood back and said, "What? Aren't those Galileans?" What were the Galileans known for? Just ignorant fishermen. Couldn't even talk right. And yet they're speaking with eloquence that is just amazing and bringing all these people into the church. So the gospel will go worldwide, and then the end will come. Now, what is the sign that probation closes? Well, we know that the 7 last plagues will start, right? We'll know that when that happens. But really, the abomination hasn't happened yet. Hear me out. I have the proof. I will be glad to show you. Abomination doesn't happen till down here. It says, "When you therefore shall see the abomination stand in the holy place." That's the first one, but I'm going to take you to this chart with Daniel 11 in just a little bit. When you see it, that's the time to flee. They don't actually flee right at the close of probation. How many people know when probation's door closes? No one. Only God. And how is it that he decides to bring it to a close? When he knows that every person on this planet has fully understood the gospel and has a chance to accept it or reject it, he brings it to a close. That's it. No further need for going further. Then we have this great tribulation time, and the tribulation finally ends, and God's people are then rescued and taken off with him to the New Jerusalem. A couple of quotes here. "The time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, we shall be forced to seek a refuge in desolate and solitary places." Notice that. As the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for them, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath will be a warning to us. When that happens, that is actually a death decree. And that comes sometime after probation closes. In Daniel 11:32 it said, "And such as do wickedly against the covenant," there we have it again, 10 commandments, but specifically the 4th one, "shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits." Now this is Daniel 11. Does that sound like the latter rain? The people of God will be strong and do exploits. And let's read on. "And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be holpen," or helped, "with a little help, and many shall cleave to them with flatteries." Have you been told this even at the end? That when the persecution comes, some are going to be offered money even to give in to the power that brings this persecution on God's people. Some of them of understanding will fall. Have you read that? Doctors and ministers and lawyers, have you read it? Some of them will fall. To try them, to try who? To try the real true, and so purge and make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. That's Daniel 11. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength and take away the daily sacrifice. Now, I don't want to get into that one. That one has been debated all through our church history. And still, you have people on this side, people on that side. Really don't need it. It's okay to not totally know that. They shall then place the abomination that maketh desolate. So I have now the same picture, but now this is Daniel 11. This is not Matthew 24. And it's describing in verses 1 through 28 the wars and rumors of wars and disasters. You go to 32 to 35, the gospel's now going to all the world. Daniel 12:1, probation is closing. It says Michael stands up, right? And that's the end of probation. And then we have in verse 31, the abomination that brings desolation. And then what many people have heard, the war of Armageddon. And then the righteous dead are raised when Jesus comes. So, I want you to study Daniel 11, 36 to 45. Please mark it. Please study it. I do believe it could be our present situation of power. You read it. You read it. See what you think. There's a king here that stands up that is very different from any of the others that have been. I believe it depicts the king of the two-horned beast and the war of Armageddon that will end with the coming of Jesus. It will give you chills as to how close we are to the fulfillment of all things. If I am wrong, I am wrong. I'm not telling you it is absolute truth, but it looks like it. And it is, if it is. We don't have much time left. Time is short. Now, here's the order of the last day events in a simpler way, and I think that you'll agree with that. That's what I agree with. There will be Sunday laws. That's not the abomination of desolation. The abomination of desolation is when everyone is forced to keep a false Sabbath. That's the abomination of desolation, and that comes after probation closes. Now this whole thing down here is very short, really, is it not? The time of Jacob's trouble and all of that. This is a short period of time. If you'd ask me, I'd say maybe just 10 days. I think it's very short. And it's even going to be shortened for the sake of God's people. Because if he didn't, no one could be saved. And so there we have it. That's when the abomination that brings desolation, that is when we leave the cities. It's not a probation closing. No one knows when it closes. But this is right after that. Not very long after that comes the death decree. That's when you know we're going somewhere. I don't know where. I hope angels will be there. I think we've read something about that. They will help God's people. Some, it says, will be in prison, does it not? But how many will die here? How many of the early Christians died at the first abomination of desolation? Not one. Not one of God's people will die during that time. In 1 Thessalonians, it says, of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. And when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. As we go toward the end, do you expect things to speed up? Have they already speeded up? And it's going faster and faster. Many are thinking peace and safety, everything's going to be great now. Everything's going to be marvelous now. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others. What about the final church? Are they sleeping? What does it say about them? The last church, you find it in Revelation 3, Church of Laodicea. Oh, everything's good now. You know, this has happened a lot in history. The day before the major calamity, oh, is everything great? Read the story of Poland. Read the story of when the Nazis came and they had what they called that Kristallnacht, and that happened all in one night. And the next day, those people are in serious trouble. It's going to happen quickly. It's happened this way before. And I plucked this off the internet. Now, that's an interesting one. It's the doomsday clock. Have you heard of it? Anybody? Okay. What's it say there? How much? 89 seconds to midnight. That's why I feel like I can't just do a simple sermon. It's got to be something. We're in trouble. We're not ready yet. And we need to get ready. The doomsday clock set at 89 seconds to midnight is displayed before a news conference at the United States Institute of Peace. What's the date there? Tuesday, January 28th. That's this year. That's last week. They set the new clock. That's what they say. We've got time left on this earth. These are not Christian people. What are they looking at? What are they looking at? Let me show you here. The doomsday clock signals existential threats of nuclear war. Are there threats of nuclear war going on today? And are people taking that seriously? How many of these nuclear warheads are available? What would it be like? And so they're looking at this. So that's one of the things that they're looking at. Disasters, they're seeing all of that. And look what the other one is they put up there. AI. We're in a generation that is absolutely amazing. They're having machines do what men do. It's just, I've looked at some of this. It's absolutely amazing. But it's going to do other things as well, which aren't so good. The group meets annually to assess how close humanity is to self-destruction based upon three main factors: climate change, nuclear proliferation, and disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence. That's what they're looking at, and they say, we're about out of time. It's inevitable, they say. It's coming down. We're there. Got to show you this picture. I've put it up before. Unless you're born again, you cannot see the kingdom. What's that do for you? Does it tell you to get ready? It does me. And this thought, written in early writings, time is almost finished. Do you reflect the lovely image of Jesus as you should? I doubt that anyone would stand up to that. Then I was pointed to the earth and saw that there would have to be a getting ready among those who have of late embraced the third angel's message. Said the angel, get ready. What do you do when you put 3 words in a row? What's that say to you? Is that emphasis? Get ready, get ready, get ready. I saw that there was a great work to do for them and but little time in which to do it. So I'm quitting with that today. I wish you would look at the last verses there in Daniel 11. It may fit. It could fit the present situation in the United States of America. You just read it. Ponder it. Read it again. Think about it. I'm not saying it's actual. I might be wrong. But there are other things that tell me I'm not too far wrong, because the world is crumbling right before us. I've shared with you before that I'm reading that little book called Living the Life of Enoch. Still reading it. Probably gone through it 10 times since I last talked to you. I'll keep going through that book until Jesus comes. It tells me what to do. Pretty simple, really. My prayer life's got to go up. You agree with that? How often did Daniel pray? 3 times. But his mind was on heaven more than that, right? But that's 3 times on his knees. Let's do at least that. Let's make it 5. As we get closer, how about 7? How about constant? Bible study. Studying these things. Do you think that's a factor that will change us? It will. And then we need definitely the power of the Holy Spirit to change us. I put this out today. Just, my heart aches as I read some of these things, and it says we're not ready and we're running out of time. And, we got Christmas cards this year. We always do. We send ours out. At the bottom of ours, I always make a statement. Jesus is coming soon. We must be ready. Not one of our cards said that came to me. Not one. Oh, no, things are getting better. It's going to be a wonderful time ahead. We're in serious times. Please, let's get ready. Did you hear the song that Rusty and Sarah sang? You think the marketplace will be ended someday? No more traffic in the street? It's going to happen. Thank you for singing that. I appreciate it. We're going to sing in closing a song because at the end of it all, what's going to happen? Jesus is coming. So I want to end on a high note. It's number 438. You will see your Lord a coming.